Hey guys and gals, it's me George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, and I've been working at the Goofy Cart again today, and I've been out here and puttering around and done a lot of things. Don't seem to have gotten a whole lot accomplished. One thing I did do is I welded the motor plate down, and the motor is temporarily bolted down. It's got bolts in it, but they're not tight. But that's the location it's going to be in, and I had to do that so I could locate my transfer box here, and that is mounted. I originally had it set down lower, but now it's been raised up because I wanted more clearance down underneath. Let me see if I can do this. That's about where my clutch was before, and now I'm going to get it up so it's up inside the frame, and the transmission is not where it's going to be finally. It's going to have to come up higher too, so that I don't want, if it sticks down just a little bit, that would be okay, but I don't want it hanging down too much because I want to try and keep my ride height around where it is now. A little bit of a rake. It's probably about 4 inches high in the back to the ground, and probably about 2.5 inches high at this point right here. And yeah, that's about where I want to keep it, so it'll be relatively stable. You know, lower center of gravity, that's the idea. So I have the plate down in here that's not welded in because I've got to finalize the height. I started modifying the pulley that had been on the motor. As you can see, I am removing the outside pulley, which was a larger one, because it interfered with the transmission. So that's done. And I have been tinkering around a little bit. Let me walk you around the other side here. It's a maze. Not amazing, just a maze. I have been tinkering a little bit with my drive line and thinking ahead. And I actually had bicycle sprockets and chain over here, but they're just so flimsy that's not going to work. So this chain here is the one that came off of the original lawnmower, and that sprocket is the one that was on there. And I was concerned about it being too small because all my pulleys from there then down to the clutch is probably 2.5 inches, and then the one at the bottom is probably like 5 inches, and then it drops way down to this little tiny sprocket, and that means I'm losing speed. Of course, I have 3 gears. I don't know what the ratios are of them, but you gotta remember, this transmission was set up for a lawnmower. So what I'm thinking here is, rather than, I had thought about mounting this sprocket here, which would actually fit right over the little sprocket. I could actually weld it right onto that little sprocket like that and have a nice big sprocket. But then I have problems with chain clearance coming back here. And this sprocket has a much bigger chain even than this one, and this is bigger than bicycle chain. So while this one would be nice, and a nice heavy sprocket, it would act like a flywheel, we're going to stick with this little one here. And what we're going to do, this is my proposal at the moment. This is one of those things where I've been sitting and looking at it and thinking about it and working at it in my head, not getting a whole lot done here. But this sprocket here has a small sprocket on the back side. So it's 2 sprockets on 1 shaft. And the back one is about the same as this one here. So that would make this spin at the same speed on the hub as that one, but when the chain would come off of this sprocket, because it's that much bigger, it would increase my speed. And then from here, going back to our rear sprocket that we intend to use. And I had pointed this out before. Now watch your step now, don't trip. I got wires going across here, got junk all over the floor. This is my scrap pile. This rear end here is the rear end that came out of the Montgomery Ward tractor. Now, I want to use this, and obviously I'm going to have to extend it out because it's not long enough to make it across and to mount the 15-inch wheels on, and that's another issue all on its own. But this sprocket right here actually has a speed increaser in it, and I can't do it with one hand, but I can tell you that the speed of this sprocket through whatever gear setup that there is in here comes out so that this one is going about a half a revolution more than that one. Is that right? Half a revolution? Something like that. So anyway, I'm going to clean it all up, and I'll probably take it apart and look at the inside and see what I can do and figure out how I'm going to adapt it to my big 15-inch wheels over there. And those have bearings inside the wheels. They've just got little hubs in there. They don't have any, it's not set up for being drive wheels. So somehow I'm going to have to modify one of them to work with this hub. And I probably won't use a live axle. I think I'll just let it drive off of this one side. This side over here I don't believe is driven. I think this one is on a bearing. Or maybe no, I guess maybe it will be a live axle. And so that's some kind of a differential down in there. But we'll see how it works out in the end anyway. The shifter is setting on there. Not sure if that's exactly where it's going to be. That's the original shifter that was on this transmission. And I'm going to have to do some modifications to it. And obviously I'm going to bring the handle back here probably a little bit more and maybe up a little bit higher, you know. Gotta have that rat fink look, you know, with a hand sticking way up in the air when you make your gear shift. Yeah. And I'm thinking too, the cover on this motor is in pretty tough shape. A lot of rust on it, which is not a major problem because it can be sandblasted. But this was set up for a starter. And so it has this big hole here and this big lump on the side. And this was not a 12-volt starter because this was on a snowblower. This was a 120-volt starter. And I'm not going to use one of those again. And so it pulls start pretty easy. So I think this cover may be the same as 5 horsepower cover, which I have back here, which is the motor that came off of my Arians before I did the engine swap and upgraded it to 10 horsepower. So, oh, yeah. Okay, all right. I'm almost done, really. I really am. You just got to see this. You just got to see this. I don't know how am I gonna make this stand up here? Oh, hold on a second. Okay, put on your thinking cap and do a little more dreaming with me. Think that snowblower auger housing is gone. right there. That's gone. That's out of there. And this frame is tacked in there. And we get a seat right down in here, sitting down on that lower tube. And we'll have a pair of these tires, and maybe even I have a bigger set of tires that I could put on the back. But those are, they're already a huge difference from those little puppies to this size. So, yeah. Motorized trike. The Gosling. Yep, that might not wait for this to get completely done. If I get to a stall point, you know, needing parts or something like that for this, I think I could whip that out probably in a couple of days. That's what I'm thinking. I might be optimistic. My wife tells me I often am optimistic, but that's okay too. Another thing I've been working on today is the steering, and boy am I having a hard time getting those sleeves off. Those things are just rusted on there solid. I'm having to cut them off, and I've been beating on them, and I don't want to do any more beating because when I first started there was no play at all in this, and now I got a little bit of play in my shaft, which won't be any big deal, but I don't want it to affect it anymore. So yeah, I'm soaking it down, and I'm going to do some more grinding, and as you can see, I already cut off one section here, cut it all the way around, and that's kind of what I'm doing, cutting all the way around and cutting it off in sections. It's easier to deal with that way. Just a reminder for my friends who are entering the subscriber giveaway, make sure you watch both videos because there's pertinent information in the second one that I forgot to put in the first one. Till next time, this is George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, and I'm working at it one step at a time. Thanks. Look at all the splatter all over the place. I just can't wait until I get a real MIG welder and I don't have that mess going on. Oh man, can you imagine how beautiful my welds would be? Whoa.